Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to answer a viewer's request to get a better look at my Sawmill dust collection system. So it is a cold and rainy winter day here. I'm about ready to head home and sit in front of my fire, warm up a little bit. But before I do, I want to take some time here and talk about this dust collection system. I've shown bits and pieces of it in other videos. I've never really taken the time to specifically talk about it. So that's what I'll do. I'll give you a quick overview today. And we'll start, I guess we'll start with the heart of it. I have a 5 horsepower Oneida blower. It's 8-inch inlet, 8-inch outlet. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Oneida air systems. They make really high quality dust collection systems. This is basically just a transfer blower, very simple. So obviously sucks in, blows out. We'll start in the back here and I guess work forward. So I just have it running back out the back of the building, and just right now I'm just shooting into a big pile. In the future I have some plans maybe of putting up a block bin and shooting in there to contain it a little better, but for right now I'm not really using that space out there, and you know, I just shoot it onto a pile then scoop it up with the loader whenever I go to load it out. So if you're wondering, I have it really high. It's about 12 foot high. That is because I wanted the option to be able to drive my loader under there if I had to. I don't typically do that, but while I was building it, I thought, well, if I can get the height, I might as well. It'd be nice to have the option. So on the other side of the blower, on the suction side, I'm just running ductwork. Now you can see the first section there is black pipe. That's actually black stove pipe. Some do's and don'ts. Use that. If you have the option, use that. You'll see a lot of this is just the galvanized HVAC pipe. That's what I've always used in the past. Well, I ran into trouble with this setup because this blower is so powerful, it can actually crush this pipe if you're not careful. So I have blast gates on here, which I always like to put in my systems to isolate stuff. But I found out real quick, if I close these blast gates, I will create too much suction and I'll actually crush this pipe. So I found that out after I'd done the whole system, and a lot of this stuff I had reused from my old system. That's why I used it. I didn't want to buy a new pipe. So you'll see a lot of this on the run to the Sawmill. I would highly recommend spending a couple extra bucks and get yourself some black stove pipe. You can also get actual dust collection pipe. I run that up in my shop, the quick fit dust pipe you can get it from Nordfab or Oneida. Really nice stuff, very expensive. This is a 100-foot run here. I was not going to spend the money to run that stuff all that way. That would have been way too expensive. So I decided to use HVAC pipe, but like I said, given the choice, I would have black stove pipe here. It's just thicker, more durable, it'll last you longer. So anyway, this just goes down to the bottom, to the sump of the edger. All the dust from the edger settles down into the bottom, and it's just connected, sucks out there. You may remember in some of my other videos, my only real complaint with this dust collection system is right here at the edger. And it's not the dust collection system's fault. It's more so the edger makes these fine, I call them like toothpicks, that come off of there. And I especially run a lot of kiln dried wood, which makes the problem even worse. Those things kind of get in and bind. If they catch any little nook or cranny, they'll dam up, and then they'll start blocking, and everything behind that just kind of jams up with sawdust. So that's a problem, and I quickly realized with this system, what happens is down here at this elbow is the weak link that'll dam up there. And then I was constantly tearing that apart to clean it out. So what I ended up doing was actually making a frame out of wood and chicken wire and putting it down underneath the blades of the edger. So that's the spot where that stuff will catch, and it'll dam up in there. And about every 500 feet, I'll have to pop the lid off the edger, clean that stuff out and start again. But I'd rather have it up here where I can easily just come in and clean it out than have to take dust pipe apart and wrestle with that. It was also jamming up here in the blast gate. There's no real good solution that I've found. A conveyor, which is on my list of things. If I ever find one the right size, cheap enough, I'll probably just disconnect the dust collection from this, pull the sump off, and just run a conveyor and just shoot it out that way onto a pile all of its own. That would be the simplest. I did have a viewer suggest to me a grinder. Apparently some edgers come equipped with grinders on the bottom. It's a very neat idea. It's the first I had heard of that, but that sounds like a lot of fabrication and modification and more than I want to get into for this project. So as of now, I just deal with it. It's not the end of the world, but it is something I would change in the future, and something to keep in mind if you're thinking about connecting an edger to dust collection. It works pretty good at picking up the actual dust, but those splinters, well, they're going to cause you some trouble. Moving on here, you can see I've got different sections of black pipe and galvanized pipe, and some of it I sleeved because I realized it was a problem with it crushing, so I put some extra pipe around it to reinforce it, and that's worked for me pretty good. Now we're at the mill side of things, and you can see my ductwork just terminates with a 90-degree elbow. Then we attach to flex tube here. I used to have a 2-horsepower Grizzly blower up there, and that was my dust collection for the mill before I got the edger. But once I added the edger, I had to change things around, and I wanted something bigger because I was extending my run, and I was afraid that 2 horsepower wouldn't hold up, wouldn't be enough power. And I was probably right looking back at that, but 2 horsepower is plenty good for just pulling a band mill. If you're not running that sawdust too far, you know, that'll keep up just fine, because the bandsaw dust picks up pretty easy in a dust collector. It's pretty light and easy to suck up. So I wouldn't hesitate, for you guys that are wondering about using like a 2 horsepower Grizzly dust collector. I did it for many years with no problems. I just kind of had to upgrade here as I started adding some other stuff. So I'm using 5-inch flex hose because the blower I had there was 5-inch, and it's what I had. So I just kept this part original, and then I just took that blower down and I just added an elbow there and reduced it to 5-inch. This is 6-inch ductwork I have here. So that obviously just goes down to the mill. Now your Wood-Mizer, this is an LT40, has a 4-inch outlet. So I did a 4 to 5 adapter. If I was doing this from scratch, I'd probably go with a 4 to 6 and run a 6-inch hose and just tie right into my 6-inch ductwork. But once again, it's what I had here, so I'm not going to fix what's not broken. Really, your limiting factor is that 4-inch outlet anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And if you're wondering about my custom tape job, flex hose is expensive. And you're going to find out from this mill head going back and forth, this will wear out. This is your weak link. Well, you can get 3 or 4 times as much life as when that starts cracking. Just tape, tape, tape. Just keep taping it, and that's going to buy you a lot of time rather than just replacing this whole length of hose constantly. So that's a little tip for you. Keep a good roll of duct tape on hand, and you'll get a lot more money out of your hose. So the one thing that I think is a pretty slick setup, and I'm sure I'm not smart enough to be the only guy that's ever come up with this, but when I built this building and put the mill in, I just kind of came up with it on my own. I didn't see anybody else doing it. I'm sure other people have done it. I'm sure it's out there. But the way I handle this dust hose to the mill is a piece of sliding door track. And if you're familiar with sliding door track, you know they make different types of hangers that can go on them. Well, that's just the bolt type for adjustable up and down doors. So you take that long bolt, take a block of wood, drill a hole, put that up, and then I have hanger tape, like you'd hang pipes or ductwork with, and just screw that to the block. There's plenty of ways you could hang this, attach this hose to that door track. That's just what I had on hand. And it works really slick because this hose just swings back and forth. As the mill head's going back and forth, this will just travel along with it. And you're not dragging that hose in the dirt. It's suspended here, and it'll just follow along. It moves pretty easily. As you can see there, it'll move with the head, and that does a really nice job. I've been happy with that. That's been there probably at least 10 years. It's never failed me. So that's just a simple solution. I know a lot of people wonder about that, how to attach a dust collection system to a moving saw head that's going to move back and forth 20 feet. Well, that'll give you enough. Like I said, I have 10 feet of track here and enough slack in the hose that it'll go the whole length for me. Depending on your setup, you may have to add some more track or just fiddle with it till you get it set up that it travels nice for you. But that's really the key to my system here on the mill. Other than that, it's a basic dust collection system. You know, it just 2 suction ports to 2 machines, and I'm just discharging it out the back. Nothing fancy. If anybody has any other questions for me about it, you know, feel free to let me know. I can give you any input or advice I may have. But otherwise, thanks for watching, guys. Catch you next time.